2009 bike trip like no other.
Tell us where we come from.
Well, we've been to Lebanon and Greenbrier, Tennessee, and Jackson Hole, Wyoming.
How many miles we've been averaging?
500 a day.
And you're how old?
Going on 71. Almost 40.
I've rode with hundreds of people, but you're the oldest guy I've rode with.
Really?
Yep. But then again, you're the toughest too.
I'm the oldest guy I rode with too.
I told Karin that earlier.
Seems like it was 8, 9, or maybe 5 years ago. I thought I'd throw this out to honor a man of honor and give some riders something to watch while they're sitting on the john or in their recliners. Studies suggest those are the number 1 and number 2 preferred locations of readers when they're on social media. This guy pictured is a vet named Chilli. He's my father-in-law and the last of an old school breed of men that this world needs now more than ever before. He has grit, he is well-mannered, he is faithful in God, and tougher than men half his age. I've ridden with them all back in my days. I've ridden with the good, the bad, the ugly, 1%ers to Hog Chapter members. But this one biker stands out among them all. Absolutely not because he's kin, but because he's worthy. 14 years ago, my wife and I decided to take another 2-week bike trip out west. And after informing Chilli of our plans, he said, "Man, I wish I could go with y'all." He was 71 years old at that time, and he rode an 883 Hugger. He's short in height, but he's big in heart. I wasn't about an old dude following me out west on an 883 Hugger. That wasn't my kind of wingman, even if he is related. I ran long and hard rides years ago. 400 to 700 miles a day was nothing but a day's ride back then. But just to clear my conscience and score points with my wife, I asked Chilli if he wanted to go with us, and I'm thinking all along that he would say no thanks due to his age. But out of respect, he'd say, "Thanks for asking me anyway." Nope, to my surprise, he said, "Heck yeah." Long story short, Chilli, his daughter, which is my wife, and his son-in-law, which is me, made a 4,592-mile trip with him riding his 883 Hugger and us on our big, fat, comfortable Road King. We zigzagged through several states on back roads from Nashville, Tennessee, out to Jackson Hole, Wyoming, and back in 13 days. The first day we left, we'd ridden a little over 250 miles, was going through a small town in Missouri, speed limit 35, so we'd slowed down, and my wife leaned up and said she was worried about her dad, wanted to check on him. So I pulled into the next gas station and pulled up to the pumps. Chilli got off his bike and said, "What are we stopping for?" And I said, "Well, your daughter needs to pee, and I thought we'd go ahead and cap off our gas tanks while we're here." So me and him stand there pumping gas in our bikes, and I looked at him and I said, "Hey, Pop, how you feel? You feel like riding a little bit further, or you want to call it a day and just get a motel room in this little town here?" He looked at me kind of funny, said, "Son, you ride as far as you can, and I'll ride another 50 miles. And then we went back to pumping gas. Needless to say, I did not ask about his well-being for the rest of the trip. Even when we was in Cheyenne, Wyoming, he hit a pothole on a truck stop so hard that it collapsed his front forks to the point that the triple tree dented the top of his fender, and fork oil sprayed out of the fork shells like a sprinkler mess. But he didn't wreck or even get excited about it. No big deal to a man like him. It's just the cost of an adventure," he said later. Chilli and I fished the Snake River, and we peed in the Snake River. We seen bear, moose, wild turkeys, wild donkeys, and much more wildlife. We sat on our bikes in the middle of the old highway that runs through the Badlands of South Dakota and drank a beer on the center yellow lines in the middle of the road, and not one car or truck came by to interrupt our 10, 15-minute rest stop moment. And it was the first 2-week bike trip that I'd ever taken that I did not get rained on one time in 13 days. Chilli's now 84 years old, and he sold his bike several years ago after he was run off the road by an idiot driver. He didn't wreck the bike, but he was shaken up by the moment. He said it was time to quit while he was ahead, and that he was thankful for the years of riding and having the brains to know when to hang it up. I wish I'd had the brains back then to buy that bike of his, just to keep it around. Heck of an old man I speak of, kinfolk or not. Tough as hickory wood to ride an 883 hugger 4,592 miles in 13 days at 71 years of age. Chilli has lived large in his time while traveling the world on the Navy's dime and riding all over the country on a motorcycle in his younger days. One of the best rewards in my life was when he said to my wife and I that our bike trip out west was the best bike trip he had ever been on, and he will talk about it and remember it till he dies. So will we. Turns out that Chilli was the best gun-toting wingman I've ever had in over 50 years of riding. The simple things remembered in life really matter. We were called the Snap, Crackle, Pop motorcycle gang. Snap because of my snap hanger issues, Crackle because Karen's knees crackle, and Pop just because he's Pop. It was a good ride that we will all remember. Love you, Pop. Thanks for your time. 160.
160 and go all the way to Poplar Bluff, and then run down through here.
You get up on, hey, forgot when you get up on a straight part of that bridge.
What was that, Daddy?
Getting off the Central Pike.
How do you do it?
You go under the bridge, and back. Get that?
I got it.